Hey everybody, today is September 18th, 2020. Not much to talk about, as always. I'm just recording this on an old laptop down here in the basement where hopefully no one can hear me. There's a bunch of shit down here. Zebra suitcase, a lamp right there, whoever that is. So, and of course there's no drywall up, so hope you appreciate the amazing background for this particular video. Maybe it's symbolic of how I'm feeling right now. As of recently, I've come under these intense feelings of loneliness that have become increasingly debilitating. And it's just from looking at the current state of my own life, how I just have no one to go to talk to relate to, outside of my family. In other words, I have no friends. And it's been like this for a long time, as far back as I can remember. Not just since when I graduated, but throughout high school, even middle school to some extent. My family does a lot for me, continues to do so, and I'm eternally grateful for that, but it's a massive trade-off. Because on the other hand, I have to deal with their incredibly religious, evangelical, and far-right beliefs that have, over the last few years been very difficult to endure, to compartmentalize. And there's just nothing I can do about it. I don't dare speak my own mind. I wouldn't want to cause any unneeded division, tension. The worst is during family gatherings when relatives are over, especially my half brother. It's when it gets really bad. Luckily, that hasn't happened as of late. So, but I've seen my parents just become more and more unhinged in their religious beliefs. I've been watching these end time sermons. I mean, really, like some of the most ridiculous shit imaginable. I'm not gonna mince words here. It's just there's just nothing I can do, and my entire family's like this. My entire family, every single family member, and I've just become increasingly distant. Find it difficult to even talk to any of my family members. And that primarily is what is fueling the loneliness. that I've come under. Because I have no one else to go to talk to, and even slightly understand how I feel. And it's been like this for a long time. I've always had very few friends throughout middle and high school. Remember my first year of middle school, me and my family had moved to this new area. And I remember during those recess breaks, I would stand behind this tree, just had no one to talk to. So eventually, um, I befriended a few kids, and we hung out during recess break. Fast forward to high school, and we once again moved, and I had no one to talk to. Once again, remember during lunch breaks, for the first few days starting high school, I sat in the hallways by myself. I remember the kids were staring at me. This one kid was trying to pick on me, and I knew that I had to find somewhere else to eat my lunch, to avoid that from happening again. Eventually, I found this room. It's called the resource room, and it's where a few kids who are learning physical disabilities and just some other kids would eat their lunch. And that's where I ate my lunch every school day for the next 4 years. And there were people who I talked to during my time there. People came and went. I remember this one person who I sat next to regularly, and he would do most of the talking. I had very little input in those conversations, but he had a disability called spinal muscular atrophy. His entire lower body was disabled. He could still move his arms and talk. I remember one day he told me that if I ever wanted to, I could come over to his house. I never did. And there was one day where he just wasn't at school at all. That day turned into weeks where I just didn't see him at all. Eventually I found out that he passed away. And it took a while for it to hit me. I wish I took that chance to hang out with him. I never did. So there were a few other people I talked to until I had no one at all. And I would just sit at this table by myself during the first half of grade 12. In the second half, the last few months, of high school, they closed off the resource room during lunch breaks, which meant I couldn't eat my lunch there anymore. So once again, I had to eat my lunch in the hallways. And I ended up finding this secluded area on the second floor, and there were very few kids around. And that's where I would eat my lunch every single day until I graduated. So in a way, it came full circle. And I remember in between my classes and at the end of the day, when I was waiting to be picked up, I would wander the hallways to pass the time. Just walk floor after floor over and over again until they arrived. So I just had nothing else to do. And that didn't change when I entered college. In my very brief time there, it was only a few months until I dropped out. Partly because, I quickly realized computer programming wasn't something that I had much interest in. And also, mostly due to logistical reasons, didn't have reliable transportation, and it made everything far more difficult than it had to be. But every day in between my classes and when I was waiting to be picked up, and sometimes I would have to wait up to an hour, 2 hours to be picked up. I would wander the hallways, walk through the hallways over and over again until I received that text message or phone call that they had arrived and I could go home. There was nobody I talked to there. I can only think of 2 or 3 instances where I talked to somebody else for longer than a minute. I know the answer to all this is, you have to put yourself out there. You have to take the initiative and talk to people. Just think about every time I put myself out there, how I just ended up in failure. So many awkward moments, painful, embarrassing moments. So somehow or another I managed to fuck everything up, stumble over my words, shake uncontrollably, sweat profusely. My heart just races. There's nothing I can do to calm myself. And it just ends up becoming a train wreck. A train wreck that I already see coming and just can't do anything to mitigate, to avoid. So all those awkward situations that I found myself in, trying to talk to people. I wish it wasn't like this, but I have no means of putting myself out there at this moment in time, not for lack of trying, because I just can't get anywhere. I know what needs to be done to an extent. I've put out so many applications to try and get a job. I've, you know, landed only 2 interviews during that entire time. Just nothing has ever come of it. I've been trying. I've been trying to get somewhere. It's just not happening. And I really hope that can change. I really hope all this can change. I don't want to continue living like this. I don't. I want to do something with my life. I'm 21 years old now. I've been living like this for far too long, and at one point I convinced myself that perhaps I was okay living like this. I was okay being alone. And truthfully, I'm not. I realize that now. It's only come to me in the last few months. I want things to change. I want to meet new people. I want to do something in my life. I just can't get anywhere. And I'm really trying. And of course, the pandemic has complicated everything. Cases are spiking again, and maybe heading for another lockdown. So it's not looking too great. Hopefully, you, if anyone's watching this, hopefully you're doing okay. Hopefully people around you are safe and healthy. And hopefully you're doing better than I am. So I'm not doing too great.